Welcome back for part 3 of the Wagon Bed Modifications. I think we're getting close to wrapping this thing up. Where I left y'all off last time, pretty much had it all welded up and everything. It was ready for paint. So what we have left, got to paint it. Got to wire up our clearance lights, wire up some red LED lights, mount it to the truck, and then we'll need to mount some toolboxes and whatnot underneath it. And I think that will be covered in this video. We'll have everything done up until the most important part, which will be mounting the easy loader. So let's get into it. And there she be. Looks a little different now, huh? Was a completely black flatbed. Now it's white and black. Got a two-tone paint job. What do y'all think of that? I think it's different, but I think it looks pretty sharp. Real happy with how the paint job came out. I am by no means a painter. I really dislike painting. I usually get, I'm a little too impatient to put a light coat, put multiple light coats. I usually get anxious and I'll put it on there pretty thick and I'll have runs everywhere. I have a few runs on this, but not as many as I usually have. Use some Rust-Oleum paint. I'll show you guys. Use this high performance protective enamel, oil-based. Gloss white on the top, and then the bottom here underneath flat black. Kind of wish I had went with gloss black, but I grabbed it and used it. It's underneath, it'll never get seen anyway. It's kind of high dollar paint, but man, it sure seems like good stuff. Really happy the way the white turned out. Just the way it feels and looks. Y'all get to see it later on when I flip it. Black looks good. Now I got all the loose paint blasted off here with the power washer. Now everything looks nice and uniform under here. Got all of our new stuff painted. Looks real good. And if you didn't notice, got lights wired up. Just went back with the lights it already had. And got my red LED lights wired in. That's a protective film, the blue is. So once we're all rigged up, I'll peel that off. 6 of them, 3 each side. I think I'll kind of run with them transport mode, kind of like that. Then when I'm ready to use them, I can just reach under here. And they're made to turn. I think I can loosen up the nut fairly easily. And then just turn them wherever I want them when I'm working. Get them set up nice. They all have a short cord and then a plug. So I got them wired in where if I ever have to replace them for whatever reason, I can be really easy, just unbolt them and they'll plug right up. I didn't hardwire them in. And then I got them from Black Oak LED. These are the 2-inch diffused pod lights, red LED. They come in 2 different versions. They have a diffused light, which is what I got, and then they have a spotlight. So the spotlight's going to be more focused and intense, and the diffused is more similar to like a floodlight. It's going to scatter the light in a wider area, have a wider throw. I think they have like a 120-degree throw. And I also purchased from Red Oak it's a 4-to-1 wiring harness. They have 4 plugs. They all come in spliced into one plug to make it easier for your wiring. But as you saw here, I have 6 lights. So what I did, those 2 very front ones and the 2 in the middle, I spliced them in together on the same circuit. And then these 2 rear ones, they're on their own circuit, so that's 4 circuits. Here's the wiring harness, if y'all can see it. It's got these 2, got 2 legs going off to each side. They came over right in here. They come with plugs, but I didn't have any plugs made up with them, so I just hardwired them in here. And the plugs are each of my lights. And then it comes down into this single plug. And I'll have a switch in the cab with wiring all the way down the frame rail to right here, and I'll have a plug. So if I ever have to take the bed off, I just unplug it right here. And this is where all my wiring for the clearance lights on the truck is. I'm gonna have, obviously this is upside down. This is the driver's side frame rail. I have a junction box on the truck right here. So I can just bring this harness down and wire straight into that junction box. That way, if and when in the future I ever have to take this bed off, all I have to do is, I don't have to do any wire splicing or like that. Just take the junction box open, and there's some nuts with terminals, and just take them off there, and easy peasy. And got all my wiring in wire loom to make it nice and neat under here. Protect everything hopefully for a long time. Got my side marker turn signal combo lights in. So yeah, making progress. So yeah, I think the next step will be get all the trash cleaned off of here. Get this thing outside. Flip it over, put it on sawhorses outside, and then get the truck in here. Do some finishing touches on that before we try to mount this on there. Well, got the big old girl back in the shop. I've actually been working on it, made quite a few modifications. Figure I could go over those with y'all as well. Still got some finishing up to do. But the first, probably the biggest thing to accommodate my new bed and everything, I extended the chassis frame. It did end right in this area. Problem was this hitch provision assembly, this plate, and then these side plates are all one piece. It was up in here, but the previous owner, for whatever reason, had welded it all around for installation. It's definitely not the way I would have done it. And that's why going back, I bolted it. 4 grade 8 bolts each side. Lock nuts. Holes drilled size to size, so there's very, very, very little tolerance in there for any movement. Anyway, I bring that up because I had to cut the frame off behind there and then get that piece out of there and get it all cleaned up. So the original frame was, I think, 75 inches from the center of the axle to the end of it. Ended up cutting it right here so I could get a good clean square cut. At a local fab shop making my extra pieces. I had to order the material because it's 5/16. And I went ahead and used some 1/4 inch, and I double framed a 2-foot section in the center of my seam. I don't know if that's a wise idea or a waste of time. I don't know, but I did it. Made me feel better up here. And I bolted it. 4 3/4 inch grade 8 bolts each side. And then I welded in the web, but not the flanges. So, I don't know, it seems pretty strong to me. I don't think I'll have any problems because this is at the very rear. I don't think there'll ever be enough weight to really cause any problems back here. Unless I had a really heavy bumper pull trailer, but I don't see that in the future of this truck. If I have a heavy bumper pull load to pull, I doubt I'll be doing it with this truck. And I made me up a cross member to go right in the middle of my seam. Some 3-inch channel bolted inside of some 5-inch channel. You know, just like the factory, if I ever needed to, for whatever reason, take it out, it's just some bolts and nuts. So the reason I added on to the end of the chassis, and instead of cutting it in the middle and adding it in there, is one, it's a short section. So I didn't think it'd be a problem adding it onto the end. And the truck is already the longest wheelbase offered from the factory. It's 235 inch for the crew cab. And I wanted everything to stay, as much stuff to stay factory spec as possible. And what I mean by that is, you know, if I were to splice here in the middle and move stuff, then parts are going to change. Whether it's wiring or fuel lines, or the main thing would be the drive shafts. Like, all that stuff gets changed. So then, you know, in the future, if and when I needed parts, you know, I wouldn't be able to get factory parts. Wouldn't be able to get factory part numbers to cross-reference stuff. It's just a snowball of problems, in my opinion. You know, other people may disagree, but everything's still factory, you know, we'll never have to worry about that. Just added a short section on the back, added in some wiring, good to go. And, you know, extending everything, I had to move my tail lights back and drill new holes. I have to extend the wiring harness. So this is for my, this is like the trailer wiring. So I put in a junction box. It kind of helped with my new length. That way I could have my existing trailer plug. I can just plug it in and unplug it if I need to. Have a female end and a male end, so I kind of, you know, made all of it work together. And this is the junction box I was alluding to earlier when we were looking at the flatbed. You know, my wiring will come down and down into here. Should be pretty easy to wire up. Spliced in 2 feet of extra wire for the tail lights, and the backup alarm is on the passenger side. The backup camera, it had plenty of wiring, so didn't have to extend it. And it's here. My original plan was to mount it in this plate, but this plate is too thick for the camera to pop in there properly. So I use this 1/4 inch material, put it at an angle, and I can just see the top of this hitch ball here, and then I can see way back there, so works out pretty good. And it'll be protected by the bed from up above. And this is the wiring. You know, I got a whole bunch of extra here, but I'm going to cut it off wherever I need to. This is the wiring for that red LED lights. Got a power wire and a ground wire coming in. Switch will be in the cab. You'll see that here in a minute. But on the to-do list, oh, before I get to that, I added in a second fuel tank. So this truck came with the rear 40-gallon tank. If you watch the introduction video to this truck, these things from the factory, you have an option. You can get the rear only tank, 40 gallons, or you can get the dual tank setup, which is 65 gallons. You have this midship tank that's 25 gallons. Well, this one didn't have it. So I went to the dealer, did a whole bunch of research with the parts center, you know, looking up drawings and whatnot. But long story short, got this thing added in here. It's just like factory. You know, so if I ever need parts or anything, or if I ever sell it, you know, everything's just like factory. I had a service bulletin from GM that went over the fuel tank strategy. It gave you the layout of the bolt holes for the supports, gave you the layout for the hole to cut in the frame for the fuel filler neck, told you which, you know, these fuel sending units, they have 3 ports, showed what all 3 ports were for. This one is an auxiliary on each one. So I ran the hose from this one back to that one, and I installed an aftermarket fuel pump to suck fuel from this one and feed that one, because that one's already set up to draw fuel out of and go up to the fuel filter and all that. I thought I had a hang up before I did this. I wanted it exactly like factory, which would be this tank feeds this one, and then it goes from here to the fuel filter and all that. But you have in that setup there, off the main wiring harness, there's a plug that comes in here for this sending unit. It detects the fuel level, and it's all, you know, electronic computer stuff. Keeps both of these tanks the same level, and they have a transfer pump back there in the frame rail, and it just comes on, I don't know what, you know, somehow the fuel level triggers it, but it keeps them both the same level. And that way your fuel gauge in the cab is accurate on how much fuel you have. And the truck will be programmed for that many gallons of fuel. So your fuel mileage will be accurate, and your remaining mileage will be accurate. So I'll have to deal with missing out on those luxuries, but I'll have a switch in the cab. When that tank gets low enough, I'll just fill her back up. Now when we get the bed on here, it's going to be real close tolerances. You know, the cap's going to be real close, and I'll have a short section of hose. I've got to get that fabbed up when we get the bed mounted. And these things come factory with just a straight section of hose out of here, but I ordered some hose with the 45-degree angle to help, because with the straight section I think it might kink a little bit. Like this one is like the factory, it's all flimsy and floppy, but when you put it up there at about the height it's gonna be, see, this hose has a kink in it. So I've got some more 45 degrees I'm going to install on there. I'm going to take y'all into the cab, show you what else I got to do. So here's the grab handle for the driver's side. You know, it goes up there like that. Well, I'm going to have some switches in here. Those 3 black dots. got my wires ran. I gotta just drill the holes for my switches, install them, wire them up. We'll be good to go. We're gonna have one for the red LED lights, a second one to turn on the transfer pump for the diesel. And then we're going to have a third toggle switch for the easy loader. It's not like an on-off, it's like a power interrupter just to keep the thing from coming on and moving while you're going down the road, I guess. So we got to get that done. Once we get those things, then we'll be ready to throw that bed on here, I think. Man, I am ready for that. Forgot to mention, had to fab up some toolbox brackets for the truck. These are going to bolt to the frame. Toolbox will rest and bolt here. You can find real similar ones online, but I refuse to get them when I can just make my own. 3-inch channel, and then a 1/4 inch by 1 inch support. The ones online they don't just have 2 fixed bolt holes, they have a slot where they're kind of adjustable. Hopefully that doesn't bite me in the butt. But we're gonna have two toolboxes over here. A smaller one up front that'll hold all the electrical for the easy loader. And then we'll have a 4-footer right next to it to store whatever. So we'll see how these look. Now this is one you can't get online. This is going to be where my 2 boxes meet because they're going to be right next to each other. So this is my center support. And I have the support for the bracket right in the center, so each box can come up here and I can bolt each side. And no, all these holes weren't in the frame. I had to drill all these out. That was quite the job. Laying it all out was quite the job because there's several little brackets in there that were in the way. So the tricky part, I've got them U-bolts hanging down, and the tricky part's gonna be getting it lined up on the truck frame, and getting it just right. I've got to pre-hang them like that because once it's on the truck, I can't swing them down because there's obstacles in the way. So this is the only way I know to do it. And then plus, I got to set it on the truck on those wood pieces. So I can get my forks out from under it.
Oh, gotcha.
And then I got to lift one end up at a time once we get it on there and get the boards out.
Okay.
Got my plastic under there. Hopefully it goes on there, not too many problems. I think it's going to be kind of a pain, but hopefully we can get it. Well, that went a whole lot easier than I thought it would. I figured these U-bolts would be a problem, but they went on pretty smooth. What do y'all think? Got my toolbox brackets here. What y'all think of that bright paint job? I'm liking it. Two-tone in the back. Looks pretty different. But I'm liking the white bed. Should keep it from getting so dang hot in the summertime. Exciting times. Things are finally coming together a little bit. Well, I got another mess going on. Time to try to get these toolboxes mounted under here. They're going up under the bed a little bit, so I need to get these mounted and in place so then I can secure the bed down. Because to get the boxes in there, I have to have the bed propped up. So once the boxes are in there, I can tighten down on all the U-bolts. Now for one important piece of equipment. Everybody may not think of fire extinguisher. There we go. Well, folks, I think we about got her. As far as the bed and the truck goes, I've been putting in some long hours, so I'm about ready for this thing to start coming together. Got our toolboxes mounted. I think they look pretty good. All the lines look pretty good, nice and straight. Got them tucked up there tight. Still got some clearance. I wanted them flush with the front of the bed, but I had to leave this space so I could have my red LED light right here and it could still function. Got them all mounted. I'll probably insert some footage right here because I went out last night after it got dark real late and tested them out, so y'all take a look. All right, we're going to try out these red lights. Adjust them. Hell yeah. That's gonna be awesome. So I thought they turned out pretty good. Got them all adjusted to where I think it'll work best from the point. You know, because the loader's going to be up there 16 foot, so it's barely going to reach the end of the bed, you know, and it's going to go in a circle. So I'm not really going to have any hives back here at the rear of the truck. They're all going to be up around the cab and kind of right here at the midpoint. So I got them, all the lights kind of shining that way. Tighten them all up. I can still move them, but they're nice and tight. They won't be falling down or nothing. Got them tucked up under there. I think those turned out well. Got the mud flaps on. Here in Texas, you gotta have mud flaps on dual wheel axles. Hook the lights up and everything works, so that's a bonus. Midship turn signal works. Got the fuel fillers all plumbed up. This one was actually pretty easy because the previous owner had, see this pipe right here is metal. And they had hacked it off right there, so it's a lot shorter. So I used more rubber hose, so it's just more flexible to get everything hooked up. That one was pretty easy. Then this one on the tank that I added, the metal pipe is the full length, so there's shorter distance up there. A little harder to work with, but I got it. And then here's this bulletin I mentioned earlier. If y'all have stuck around long enough, it gives all the info on the fuel tank strategy. Bulletin number 163 talks about the front and the rear tanks, kind of how they're laid out, and it talks about what each port does on the fuel sending units. And it has pictures of the ports, and the draw tubes and everything, how you should hook them up. And this page I use quite a bit because it lays out all the holes for the supports and the hole for the tube to go through the frame and where it's supposed to go on the truck, all that stuff. So this came in real handy. And I don't think I've addressed it yet, but y'all may be wondering why I went with white instead of just black like everybody else. Well, black gets too dang hot in the summertime. You know, whether I'm, having bees on here would be the main concern when I'm moving them in the summertime. But another thing is, you set stuff on a black bed, and depending on what it is, it can melt. Whether it's combs or propolis or anything like that. So just trying to keep the temperature down in the summertime, and I imagine it's going to work pretty good. Only time will tell. Up here behind the cabs where I'm going to have my smoker boxes. These are them here. Well, it's going to go the other way. Set in there just like that. And one on each side just in case I have somebody helping me at some point. Easy access for these. And these are pretty big. I use the Magnum sized date ant smokers, and they'll fit in there, so that's a good deal. Probably put my smoker and my hive tool in there. I'm gonna leave them off till I get the easy loader mounted so I don't have to avoid hitting it. Take a look under here, got all the U-bolts tight, so this bed is on here securely. And I've got between my channel up here and the truck frame is a 1/4-inch piece of ABS plastic I referred to earlier. And the reason for that is just because I don't want metal to metal contact, that abrasion that'll go on between the two, and it'll allow rust to happen and whatnot. So having that plastic should help with squeaks and just kind of a wear item between the two. And having the U-bolts, as if that plastic wears a little bit, the bed could get a little loose, and then with the U-bolts I can just tighten them up when I need to. And the U-bolts help contain the plastic, won't let it escape. So on my rear hitch assembly, I welded these tabs on here, 1/2-inch plate sticking up on both sides of the frame rail, just to kind of like a stop for the runners on the bed. Kind of a safety deal. So did kind of the same thing at the front. I made these brackets out of 2-inch angle, this side, and the same deal on the other side. Bolted them to the truck chassis. So I don't know if it's, necessary or standard practice, but I figured, for worst case scenario, if this bed is ever loose and I don't know it, if I were to hit the brakes pretty good or get in an accident or something, the bed and the easy loader can't come crashing into the cab. Just kind of a safety stop. So now let's move into the cab. Got seat covers all the way around. Got some good Carhartt seat covers. Protect my seats from propolis and beeswax and honey. What better time to put them on now than when they're nice and clean? So we got over here, I found this nifty spot, put my switches, even color coded them. Got the red for the red LED lights under there. Got the green for my diesel transfer pump. I don't know, it's going right now. I don't know if y'all can hear it. Y'all hear that? So I actually put 5 gallons of diesel in that tank and turned that pump on and listened to it because I was curious as to whether it would prime itself. And you could hear the pump change tones, and I put my ear down next to the rear tank and it was squirting fuel in there, so we're good to go. That thing's working. And then that toggle switch that I've talked about for the easy loader, just like a safety interrupter switch. All those wires go down the pillar up under the foot area there, and they come out through the firewall up here. These trucks come with a nice little pass-through place for your auxiliary wiring. What I did was basically for those 3 switches, I made my own wiring harness. Put it in some wire loom, and it goes down right there onto the truck frame and goes all the way back and starts splitting off wherever the appliances are. And then for the red LED lights, they come with their own wiring harness, each light does, but they require such low amperage, I just used one harness for all 6 lights. So they come with this is the relay for them. And down here is a fuse coming off the power source. Now I should probably I got a 7.5 amp fuse in there. I probably need to run a smaller one because each light is rated for 3 watts. So 3 watts divided by, we're running on a 12-volt system. So that's 1/4 of an amp per light. And I've got 6 of them. So that's 1.5 amps. So huge advantage of LED lights is the low amp load. And then up here is the fuse for my fuel pump. Got a 5 amp in there. So yeah, think that about covers it. I apologize if it's a little long-winded, but I like going over the details, you know. It's kind of why I make the video. Now the only thing left, well, not the only thing, but the main thing left is mounting the easy loader. Well, I got some mud flat material coming, and I'm gonna put it on the back of this toolbox here to protect it from these tires, because they're gonna throw rocks and whatever else, and it's probably gonna destroy the back of this toolbox. So need to protect that. Other than that, that pretty much gets it. I don't know when it'll happen, but I need to make me a step. And I can use these bolt holes for the trailer hitch. May even take this hitch off. I need to make a step that'll bolt up here. That'll be a future project. Right now I can step here and grab here and get up there, but if I do that multiple times, that's going to get old pretty fast. Thanks to y'all who've come along for this little journey. I'm pretty happy with how everything's turned out. It's just taking a lot longer than I thought it would. But my motto's been to I get aggravated because stuff takes longer, but I keep telling myself just to slow down, do things right, because now is the time to do it right, so we don't have to come back and redo anything. But anyways, if y'all want to see the easy loader mountain, that's going to be the next thing, so tune in for the next video. See y'all on the next one. Hell yeah. That's going to be awesome.